In this video, we're going to explore buttercream cookie decorating. Hi, it's Hani here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I prepared a tutorial for those of you who prefer buttercream over royal icing, and I am using my crusting buttercream recipe. Welcome everyone, and let's get started. We're going to start by making crusting buttercream. I already shared this recipe here on my YouTube channel, and you can find a detailed step-by-step picture tutorial also on my blog. Both links are listed in the description box under the video. This buttercream can be made ahead of time. You can store it in a fridge, let it come to room temperature before using. We're going to color it with gel food colors. You can also use dry powder colors. If you're using those, I suggest dissolving the color in just a tiny bit of liquid and then adding it to your buttercream. However, you don't want to dilute buttercream too much. If that happens, you can amend it by using some extra powdered sugar, or you can also use a little bit of cornstarch. If you live in a super humid area, it does help alleviate the humidity issues. Now here I'm using a cocoa powder, so I sifted the cocoa powder to avoid having any cocoa powder lumps in there, and look at this beautiful brown color. So if you don't have brown food coloring, you can also use cocoa powder to color your buttercream. We're going to be using piping tips to pipe buttercream onto the cookies. Now what happens when you store this buttercream in a fridge, it tends to firm up a little bit, and it may dry out a little bit if you store it there for longer. So what I like to do, I like to let it come to room temperature, and if needed, I add a few drops of water to bring it to that more smooth consistency. Buttercream keeps in the fridge for about three weeks or so. Now we're going to start with the sunflower, so I'm using edible marker here. I found the center and then drew the little circle on there with the marker. And now I'm using, this is a piping tip 104, this is a petal tip, which means that one end of the piping tip is wide and one end is narrow. So I'm holding the piping bag with the wide end of the piping tip facing out, and the narrow tip is facing the center of the cookie. And we are basically piping these prolongated teardrop shapes. So you can see I'm pushing the icing out, I'm squeezing the bag, and I'm coming a little bit forward, tucking that end under. And now we're going to make the center with brown icing, and I've got my piping bag fitted with number, this could be 16, 14, or even 18 star piping tip works for this. You can also use 21 or 32 star tip. Those are slightly larger. I prefer to use smaller star tip for this step. So here is our cute little sunflower. Now we're gonna make a daisy. For this I'm using 104 piping tip as well, but you can see I'm holding the piping bag differently than when I was making sunflower. So here I'm holding the piping bag at about 45-degree angle here, and the narrow end of the piping tip is facing out and wide end is facing in, and I'm squeezing, letting the icing fan out, and as I'm coming towards the edge of the cookie, I'm turning and coming towards the center. So now that we have all the petals done, let's repeat this so you can have a look at this slightly sped up. And immediately after you pipe the petals, take some sprinkles. I'm using yellow nonpareils, and just add a few of these onto the buttercream. And now I'm just gonna add this, this is like a large M&M candy. Now to make the Basketweave, I'm using a very classic, this is a 47 Basketweave piping tip. Now this tip has serrated edge and also a smooth edge. So you can see we're gonna be doing vertical lines with serrated edge. I'm going all the way to the edge, actually over the edge. We're going to clean that up later. So let's start again with the serrated edge up. So I'm piping a vertical line. And now the short lines, the horizontal lines, should be about the gap between them should be about the width of the piping tip, or it can be slightly bigger, but about there it's better, so you get a nice tight fit. And then we can pipe another vertical line, and now we're going to pipe more short horizontal lines. Again, turn the piping bag so the flat side of the basket weave tip is up and the serrated end, or the end with little teeth, is facing down. And now when we come to the end, this is a bit tricky because we are using a round cookie, but it can be done. So I'm going to pipe over the edge of the cookie because I want the whole cookie to have this pattern. So I'm piping over the edge, and then because this is buttercream, we're going to clean that up with a 2-in-1 tool, or you can use a palette knife or a butter knife to clean up the edge. So here I'm just going to go over the edge and clean it up, removing this excess buttercream. Now these cookies are ready to go. If you plan on displaying it or packaging these, I suggest letting the buttercream crust. And for the packaging, I suggest letting it crust for about 6 to 8 hours, around there, depending on the environment. And the buttercream will crust enough for you to package these in poly bags. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Haniela's on YouTube, and I will see you next time.